Thank you to all of you. I'm back at the Heirloom Expo. And I'm back because the team at Baker Street honors the seed so deeply that we must honor them. And at this point, I have a lot to do at home. We're offering a 1-month course on the A to Z of agroecology and living seed and living soil. And in spite of that, I am here for 2 additional reasons. And I'm spending 3 days. I don't usually. I'm spending 3 days because California is turning into the test case for freedom. It's turning into the test case for freedom because after the biotechnology industry failed to genetically modify every seed and patent every seed as they had announced they would by the year 2000. Most seeds are not GMOs. Most seed is not patented. And every effort, like the Heirloom Expo, adds that additional seed that is free, that can be saved, that can be exchanged, that can be grown. So having failed in their project of monopolizing the seed supply through the myth of GMOs, they now want to do something that is what I call seed slavery. Try and criminalize our duty to save and exchange seed. They've tried it in India in 2004. We did with seed what Gandhi did with salt. We said we will not obey this obscene law. The government had to withdraw the law, it went to Parliament, it's had so many amendments that it's no more worth it for the industry. Because it's got too many freedoms for the farmers and too many liabilities for the Monsantos. Last year they tried the same in Europe. They called the law a plant propagating law. Most people didn't realize this was about seed because we've got so locked into words. We've forgotten how to think in process. So we don't realize a seed is a plant material, is the food we eat, is the soil we build, that entire link of life, and that all of it is one continuum. So most people said, oh, it's not seed, it's plant material. I said, it is seed, because all plant material begins as seed. All life begins as seed. Every human being begins as seed. Every animal begins as seed. And so we worked with the European Parliament. We worked with the movement in Europe. We took out caravans. We announced that if this law gets passed, we won't obey. In the meantime, the parliamentarians started to make amendments. More than 1,200 amendments were made. The law never got through. It was recalled. But there's a law that was passed on 1st of January in your state. AB 2470, the California seed law. How many of you know about it? How many of you know the contents? Not enough. Every one of you needs to leave this room committing yourself to a satyagraha against the Californian seed law. The first reason it needs to be not obeyed is it actually saying a person, from now onwards a corporation will be a person? They tried it with Citizen United, they've sneaked it into these failed free trade treaties. But right here in California, they want to impose a fiction that a corporation is a person. No, a corporation is a legal construct. And in any democracy, we give corporations and businesses permission to exist as long as they are lawful. And the laws that we are talking about is not the laws they write. It's the laws that nature has written. It's the laws of human rights. It's the laws of our Constitution. The second, they've defined a neighbor. They've at least recognized their neighbors. But then they say if you're at 1 mile, you're not a neighbor. If you're 6 miles away, you're not a neighbor. How many of you have come from beyond 3 miles? You're not neighbors. And it would be illegal to take seed from here. It goes on to say that the bill would prohibit a city, a county, a district, including a charter city or county, from adopting or enforcing an ordinance on or after January 2015 that regulates plants, crops, or seeds without the consent of the Secretary of Agriculture. Which basically is designed to prevent real democracy working at the grassroots. And the reason this is so wrong is when it comes to seed, it's only the loving hands and loving mind of a person, a community, a family, a farmer that can actually protect, save, evolve, breed the seed that we need. And to insist that Sacramento will decide, or worse, Washington will decide, or worse, Monsanto through Washington will get Geneva to decide for the whole world, which is the World Trade Organization. It is an abuse, a fundamental abuse of all democratic structures we have created over all our histories. And the other addition is trying to maintain the big myth of industrial seed and industrial agriculture at a time where so many people are waking up to the harm and damages. All of this afternoon since I arrived here, I've been listening to presentations about how industrial agriculture, including GMOs, is not delivering on its promise of providing us nourishment and food. This is the time where around the world we are starting to reclaim and rescue our ancient seeds. There was a presentation about wheat. I don't know how many of you were there. But the legislature says it declares that the success of agriculture and the seed industry in the state depends upon the continued commitment to industry, funded research in order to improve the quality and variety of seed available to the consumer buyer. They're trying to bypass the farmer now. So far it was all about the farmer, but they can't maintain the myth that the farmer is benefiting because they're ripping the farmer off with royalties. In this country, the calculation is for corn and soya alone, the royalty extraction is 10 billion annually. 10 billion. In India, the royalty extraction has been so huge in the cotton areas that more than 84% of the 300,000 farmers who've committed suicide are indebted because of Monsanto seeds and the collection of royalties. I've written I will need some water at some point. Can you get me a glass? No. Well, if someone can get me water in a glass, I'd be very happy, but soon, please. I mean, this is such an example of a false idea of convenience. You know? And how can something be convenient when it's so inconvenient to the earth in terms of the pollution it's building up, and inconvenient to our health when we pick up the bottle, then we throw the plastic away, and it's building up dioxin, it's building up poisons, and the water we are supposed to have is then more and more polluted. But, you know, this bottle of water always takes me back to the other struggle for the defense of the commons besides the seeds, and I will come back to the seed. And that's water. And, you know, it was a group of women, tiny group of women in a small hamlet called Plachimada. And it must have been 2002, and I get a call, will you come and celebrate Earth Day with us to fight Coca-Cola? We've been protesting with the Satyagraha, the fight for truth, to shut down the Coca-Cola plant. I went down because I didn't know where Plachimada was. I didn't know who these women were, and I had no idea why they would be fighting Coca-Cola. I went really to understand. And I arrive and I find 100 women and 500 policemen. And the women explained to me how every day Coca-Cola was extracting 1.5 million liters a day for free from the community. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, this little jugglery just shows that everything we've received in the name of convenience should be thrown away, and we should learn to make that additional effort with love and care for the planet and ourselves. So 1.5 million liters extracted daily, packaged in a bottle, sold for 12 rupees per liter. But when you take out that much water and you do reverse osmosis to purify the water and throw out the heavy metals build up in the water. So the water was descending. Thank you so much. I'm getting all kinds of glasses now. I'll have a rainbow of drinks. So not only was the water table declining, what was remaining was toxic. So the women were walking 10 miles. And then one day, my lama, a 65-year-old woman, said, no more. Why should we walk further and further for clean water while this company pollutes our water? They must shut down. And they called me to celebrate 1 year of protest. And I made a commitment. I said, I'll be with you till this plant is shut down. And I said, what would you like me to take as a message for Delhi? And they said something I've never forgotten. So I look at Coke and I will never drink a Kinley. Is it sold as Kinley here? Or is it Dasani? They change their names everywhere. Yeah? Dasani, yeah. My lama said to me, go tell them every time they drink Coke, they drink the blood of my people. And when you realize that water is life, and stealing the water from communities is destroying life, then it's not just a metaphor, it is a reality. Of course, we worked at every level, and this is one issue I'd really like to share with you. We are not in a time of history where we have the luxury of working in silos and fragmentation. And we are not at a moment of history where we have the luxury of competing with each other that this issue is more important and that issue isn't. All issues are important. Particularly issues that begin with seed. It's important to stop the GMOs. It's important to save the seeds. It's important to resist the laws, like the California seed law. It's important to make our own laws. And, you know, people, as I was coming in and waiting, I've been given many, many, many pamphlets. And I promise people I will mention initiatives. There's an initiative for freedom to garden. I love it, a freedom to garden. Because the freedom to garden is linked to the freedom of seed. If laws like the California law were to be put in place, there'd be no seed for gardening. So seed savers are the bridge to the future of an agriculture that protects the earth, gives us nourishment, and protects the planet. This is, of course, the continued initiatives on Sonoma County, wanting to prohibit GMOs, and the California listing of glyphosate as a carcinogen. I was told 1 million of you must write and at least put your opinion down. This is not even a vote, it's just an opinion. Put your opinion. Surely with everything we know about Roundup and glyphosate, the least you do is say you don't want it and encourage the government to perform its duty and responsibility. Now, all these laws that have displaced seed and diversity of seed, replaced it with seeds that are called variously modern varieties, improved varieties, high-yielding varieties, have been based on the assumption that on the basis of the replacement of high heirloom seeds and our indigenous seeds, we grow more food and we feed the world. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth, because all of industrial seed has been bred with only two objectives, none of which is related to food security. The first objective is how to breed seeds that respond to chemicals. And in fact, when the Green Revolution, which was not green, was not revolutionary, was the name given to chemical agriculture when it was introduced in the Third World, and the term they were using were high-yielding varieties. Of course, Norman Borlaug, who was given a Nobel Peace Prize for the Green Revolution, went one step further. He called them miracle varieties. And he trained 12 people from across the world to introduce these new wheats. And he was suffering from such a delusion of grandeur. He called those 12 people his wheat apostles. It's Borlaug's Nobel Prize that forced me to look at why there was violence in Punjab. If this was about peace, there's something's gone wrong, the narrative's wrong. And I did my work on the Green Revolution, wrote the book for the United Nations University called The Violence of the Green Revolution, and then made a commitment. The rest of my life will be to promote a non-violent farming. At that time, I didn't use the word organic, I didn't use the word ecological, I just used the word non-violent farming. Because in the process of doing that research, I'd realized that The reason the corporations were so desperate to introduce chemicals in agriculture was because they were in the habit of selling poisons, including for the war. And peddlers of poisons for killing don't change their habit easily. We have to break that habit. Not only do they not change the habit easily, they don't change the habit of giving a spin. And that's all they can do even now. They call it science. But if you really do a detailed analysis, what is Bill Gates paying Cornell for? Spin. There's no research happening on GMOs there. It's science communication, and they're bringing journalists from around the world on how to repeat propaganda. That GMOs feed the world, GMOs are safe. So at the time of the Green Revolution, the United Nations actually said the use of the term high-yielding variety should be stopped. It should be called high-response variety. It responds to chemicals. Because native heirloom seeds don't get together with chemicals. I call it the plant satyagraha. Satyagraha is Gandhi's word for the force of truth, also the power of civil disobedience, and I do hope all of you will pick up this publication, because it is both a report of 3 years of the seed freedom movement, the rollbacks we've achieved, the places where the laws like the Californian law were forced to be rolled back, but also an invitation to everyone in California to become a satyagrahi, fighter for the truth of the seed. And what is the truth of the seed? The truth of the seed is diversity. Show me any seed that comes from nature or from farmers breeding that is a clone of each other. Diversity is the way nature works, and diversity is the way 10,000 years of breeding has worked. The entire industrial takeover is on the basis of uniformity. And uniformity plays two roles. The first role it plays is to allow external inputs, the chemicals, into agriculture. Because when you have ecological systems, when you have self-organized systems, the maize can grow with the beans, can grow with the squash. The three sisters, as the Native Americans called it, the milpa system, as the Mexicans call it, the diversity that grows together beautifully. But you turn that same system into a chemical system, you start applying your nitrogen fertilizer, and the system breaks apart. Either the corn grows too fast, or the pumpkin grows too big, or the bean takes over, and the entire harmony and balance breaks down because of that external input. But uniformity has another role. And that role is the role of control. All systems of control over society and nature have been based on uniformity. All systems of freedom for nature and society have been based on diversity in unity and harmony. Unity and uniformity are the opposite of each other. The second reason why industrial agriculture has produced seeds the way they are, besides selling chemical inputs, which was the main objective of industrial agriculture and is the main objective of industrial seed breeding, the second reason is to make farmers dependent. You make a hybrid seed, farmers have to come back to the market every year. You introduce patents on seed, you make it illegal for farmers to save their seeds. And if they still continue to have their own seeds, you bring laws like the California seed law to make it impossible for them to have their seed freedom. So not only do we have to say no to GMOs, no to patenting, Now the challenge is to defend the freedom of our seeds and our freedoms to save and exchange seeds. Because if that freedom is taken away, there is no food freedom, there's no food democracy. If food democracy is taken away, there is no democracy. Because if the very basic nourishment that maintains us is not something we can decide about, we are living under a dictatorship and slavery. Now, even though the spin is there, there's these miracle seed, industrial seed, modern varieties have fed us. The reality is that only 30% of the food we eat globally comes from industrial agriculture. 70% still comes from small farms. 70%. And when we realize that ecologically intensive, biodiversity intensive farms produce much more nourishment, and we decide we're going to defend our seed freedom, we are going to grow gardens everywhere, we can make the food supply 100% based on heirloom seeds, ecological farming, and short chains and localization. It's absolutely possible. And while the industrial seed and the industrial agriculture has failed to provide food, it is the single biggest cause for the planetary destruction. 92% variety gone in agriculture, 75% soils gone. In most countries, about 90% water. Because the combination of thirsty seeds, chemicals, destructions of the soil's capacity to hold water, all add up to the need for more irrigation. We've just been doing an update of the status of the soils in Doon Valley, in our valley, including the Navdanya farm, where we save seeds, we grow 2,000 crop varieties, we have a learning center, that's where the course is going on just now, on agroecology. And the latest figures are that in these 20 years, the organic matter has increased between 43 and 160%, depending on the crops. And it's more than 2.68% in systems based on wheat, mustard, and other rotations. If we just increase soil organic matter by 0.5%, we increase water holding capacity by 80,000 liters a hectare. With 2%, which is where we've reached, we've increased water holding capacity by 320,000 liters per hectare. That's the answer to the California drought. I have watched our members' fields with native seeds and organic soils surviving a drought, a flood, untimely rain. And fields with monocultures, chemicals, and the new seeds collapse with the slight variation in the climate. And we know we're going to have more and more climate variation. 40% of the climate havoc is caused by the same agriculture that's destroying our soils, our water, our biodiversity, our health, our democracy. Most people in the climate movement don't turn to agriculture. Most don't look at soil at all. Because the challenge today really is a challenge of overcoming anthropocentric thinking and living, arrogance and hubris that comes with it, and shift to humility, knowing that we are part of the earth, we are the soil. The word human comes from the word humus, which is the Latin word for soil. So if we've got to be truly human, we've got to take care of our seeds and our soil. And when we take care of our seeds and our soil, they will take care of us. When I entered this afternoon, the presentation was going on about the older wheats and the new wheats. Everywhere in the world now, wherever wheat varieties have been displaced, native wheat varieties have been displaced, and industrial varieties have been introduced, in industrial societies, every third person has a gluten or a wheat allergy. And of course, the Monsantos of the world see that as an opportunity too. One of the big cases we fought was Monsanto patenting an ancient Indian wheat variety. The patent number was, I can find it here. It was patent number in the European Patent Office was 445929B1, and it was for wheat varieties that didn't contribute to gluten. And none of these companies patent a method. They patent the seed, the plant, the making of the dough, making of biscuits, baking of bread, everything. We fought that case as we fought the case of neem, as we fought the case of basmati, and I will have opportunities over the next 2 days to go deeper into some of these issues. But the older wheat varieties don't just not give you allergies, they actually have more nutrition. So about 5 years ago, I'd gone to initiate an organic program in a central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. And after I finished speaking, the farmer said, "What can we do?" I said, "Begin with saving seeds. You've got some of the best wheat in the world." They did it. 2 years later, I get a call from a farmer saying, "Didi," which is elder sister, "Didi, we started the work of saving seeds. Today we are 2,000 farmers using old seeds. We eat half the amount of rotis, the chapati, half, because we are full, because so full of nourishment. And others who eat it are willing to pay 2 times the amount because they also have to eat half. And it's tastier. And the chapati can sit for 3 days rather than have fungus in 1 day. And the benefits carry on and on and on. So it's a total illusion to be made to look at yield of commodity. I call yield the ultimate Cartesian measure. Descartes, the philosopher, said that primary properties were the height and length of this table and the weight of things. Dimension and weight, that's all. And he said the rest, the secondary qualities, were distractions, not reliable. When it comes to food, I'd rather trust my taste, the aroma. I mean, the aroma helps you know this food is rotten. Food has given us so many ways to communicate with us. And they want to measure it as if it's a table. They want to measure it as if the only value of growing wheat and rice and corn and soya is to put it into a container ship, to turn it into biofuel, animal feed. No. As it's said in the Indian Upanishads, Anam Brahman. Food is the creator. Because all of life on this planet, the currency of life is food. And everything is something else's food. That's the food web. It's also the web of life. To turn food, that is creator, into a commodity, to turn seed, which is the basis of food, into intellectual property, is a most fundamental crime against creation. And no matter which faith you come from. You could be a reader of the Upanishads and the Vedas. You could be a reader of the Pope's new encyclical. Brilliant document. Even if you're not a Catholic, I suggest you read it. It begins by addressing Mother Earth. He begins by talking about the pain she is going through. So we've been saving ancient seeds, and people are willing to recognize the value of quality, taste, nourishment. We're trying to do assessment this year of measuring the nutrition in native seeds versus the hybrids and the so-called modern varieties. And of course, when there's talk of modern varieties, they always talk about heirlooms as primitive cultivars. And I think the difference really is between the crude and the violent versus the sophisticated and the non-violent. Because a seed is the result of so many millions of years of evolution, 10,000 years of breeding. At every level, the intelligence of diverse species coming together with the intelligence of farmers. I've done a new book on who really feeds the world. And I've written in it that the idea that seed breeding begins when industry starts to mess up our seed is a violence against the seed and our food. It's a violence against creation by denying the processes of evolution. It's a violence against our ancestors and our farmers who gave us their precious seed. And the diversity is so huge. 200,000 rice varieties in India. Look at all these squashes. Thousands of varieties of corn from Mexico. And what has GMOs given us? Herbicide tolerance and Bt toxic corn, soya, canola, cotton, full stop. Not very good, not very smart, not intelligent at all. So what are they now trying to sell? Because the first promise of GMOs has failed. It's failed on the measure of reducing toxics, it's failed on the measure of giving more yield, it's failed on the measure of benefiting farmers. It's definitely failed on the measure of bringing us better food. People are waking up. So there are two new grand myths that are being floated. The first is, without genetic engineering, we won't be able to cope with climate change. Why is that a myth? Because whether it was the wheat that Monsanto stole, or all the climate resilient varieties, and what do we need for climate resilient? We're going to have more floods, we're going to have more droughts, we're going to have more cyclones. So we need salt tolerance, drought tolerance, flood tolerance. Are these genetically engineered traits? No, because one gene doesn't play a role. The entire genome plays a role. These are multi-genetic traits. Genetic engineering cannot deal with it, it's too complex. Every seed that is announced as a product of genetic engineering or improvement is a pirated seed, pirated from farmers. We save seeds. I mean, we've got Luna Bakra, we've got Nali Dhulia, and Kalamban. These are all salt-tolerant seeds that we have saved during the cyclone. We distributed them. After the tsunami, we distributed them. And now they come around and say, we are engineering salt tolerance. Bill Gates has written a new propaganda piece of helping farmers grow crops in the period of climate change. Can we help farmers adopt to climate change? And it's such an insulting piece. There's a line towards the end, he says, a farmer's life in the third world is a puzzle. We have to put it together. No, Mr. Gates, that farmer is alive. He's not a puzzle you put together. Yeah. And the seeds you pretend to be bringing to that farmer through other puzzles in your lab, you stole in the first place. I've had debates with the Gates Foundation where I say, okay, every time you talk about a gene for submergence, can you tell me the varieties you used? Why don't you just declare? Where did you get those seeds from? They can't, because if they acknowledge that farmers have done breeding their entire empire collapses. And that's what we have to show through expos like the Heirloom Expo, that not only has nature evolved seed, human beings in their creativity have evolved seed. It is not an invention of Monsanto. It is not an invention facilitated by Mr. Gates. And just like, you know, when the first colonialism happened, there was a legal term that was created. The term was called terra nullius, empty earth. Native Americans were not people. Aborigines weren't people. Africans weren't people. So you can take their land because they're not people. What's happening now with seed and food is what I call bio-nullius. The declaration that life is empty till the bio-imperialism starts to tamper with it. But life is not empty. Life is abundant. Life is full. Life is flowing. And our work is to continue that flow. The second so-called miracle that's being brought, given that instead of bringing us nourishment, which is what seed is for, what food is for, as the wheat presentation showed, not only is that breeding producing nutritionally empty varieties that give us hazards, they're loaded with toxics, and there'll be so many panels, they've been today, there'll be tomorrow, on the hazards of GMOs. That nutritionally empty commodity is not food. So we have the option of shifting to the continuation of the evolution and breeding of our native varieties. And it's because we have a duty to protect that diversity for the future, and we have a right to use that diversity for creating ecological food systems. Any law that comes in the way, like the seed law of California, cannot be obeyed. I really do believe that the two aspects of life, one, that it is self-organized. It doesn't get made like a Lego set. It's not Mr. Gates' puzzle. It is self-organized complexity evolving all the time. The second thing about it is you can't have self-organization if you don't have intelligence. So life is intelligent. And yet the entire edifice of industrial seed breeding and industrial agriculture is based on denying intelligence to life and people, and then proposing stupidity as intelligence. Surely, trying to put iron into the banana and increasing the iron content by 5 times, it's 0.44 milligrams, you'll get to 2. When the turmeric, and I heard the Americans have gone crazy about our turmeric now. Earlier, that thing that makes your curries yellow. Yeah. No, it's the ultimate antibiotic. Everyone, it's a cure for Alzheimer's, it's a cure for everything. It's tasty, it's medicine. It has 67 units of iron. It's just a little bit, you're never going to have deficiency. Just a little bit of coconut meal, 69 units, lotus stem, 60 units. The diversity of food is where we will solve our nutrition problems, because the malnutrition has been created by monocultures of nutritionally empty food. This is stupidity. Now, every time I have a debate, either with the Bill Gates or the Mr. Dale Bill Gates supports, who does this work, and they say, Vandana Shiva is afraid of GMOs. She spreads fear. I said, no, I'm not afraid of stupidity. I'm just shocked and outraged. And the other stupidity is, of course, trying to claim that golden rice is the answer to blindness. We've been accused of killing 200 million children because we didn't allow that stupidity to go through. Not only did we not allow it, it's stupid, so it didn't go through. IRI is not yet ready to say the golden rice has the adequate content, is able to be agronomically successful. So right now we are being sold all kinds of myths. Amazing myths. And the alternative is food security, seed security in our hands. And that we can only have if we have knowledge. I believe most of the movements in the last 20 years have made so much impact to show the weaknesses of the industrial system and practices the strengths and resilience of the ecological systems. In the last 20 years, the evidence has grown on our farms, in our communities, in universities. So the latest is Monsanto says they're going to control agriculture with big data. Now, I'm trained as a scientist. You first have to have the knowledge. And when you have the knowledge, you generate data. And then you fit the data in to understand the systems and the processes. You don't just keep plonking data. Because otherwise you have what we call information obesity. And Monsanto is not just suffering from greed obesity, it's suffering from information obesity. They've got nothing left to sell. They failed in their promise for breeding superior varieties. They failed in their promise of getting us food. They failed in their promise of solving ecological problems. So now they say, buy big data from us. Are we going to be that stupid that we give up our capacity to know our seed, to know our soils, to know our community, and celebrate that knowledge with love? Give it all up and say, yes, Mr. Monsanto, you patented our seed, we gave you royalty, we killed our farmers. Now, when there's climate havoc, we will buy climate data from you. They bought the biggest climate data corporation. And we will buy soil data from you. They bought the world's biggest soil data corporation. Now, I think we are in a very, very strong position right now. But they can keep buying companies to sell data. And we celebrate the seed in every backyard, in every kitchen, in every balcony, in every farm. We grow our freedom. We grow our freedom along with the seed. And every time they come with their stupid measures, whether it be laws like the seed law, or controlling agriculture through big data. There was even an article in Thomson Reuters saying, big data means big brains. No. Big data, empty of knowledge, means zero brain. Because knowledge is intelligence. Intelligence is really knowing how to choose, how to make a difference. Sacrificing the ability to make choices is not knowledge. And of course, you are being denied not just the freedom to save seed, as so many speakers have already mentioned. They're trying to impose the silly dark act. I mean, 64 countries in the world have mandatory labeling. And the country that claims to be a democracy is telling its citizens you can't know what you eat. You can't pass laws for labeling. But just think of it. A regime based on preventing farmers from having seeds, gardeners from having seeds, consumers from knowing what they eat. Isn't that slavery and isn't it dictatorship? And isn't it time to say, we will not obey because we have higher laws, the laws of the earth, the laws of life, the laws of the seed, the laws of humanity that must be obeyed for the continuity of life on earth in all her diversity, in all her integrity, in all her beauty, in all her promise. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I'm not going to just stop with a thank you. You really must make a commitment that you're going to go 3.2 miles on 2nd of October, Gandhi's birth anniversary, and share seed with someone you love, or even someone you don't know. Share it with a stranger. Thank you.